I'm the Field Marketing Specialist with Ardex Tile and Stone. Joining me on stage today, my counterpart, Mr. Tim Aheimer, also Field Marketing Specialist for Ardex Tile and Stone, and Mr. Jason McDaniels, the founder of Global Tile Posse and known as the Stoneman. So today we're going to be showing you one of the 4 different Ardex exterior systems that we have. The system that we're going to be focusing on today is the Ardex WATEX system. So some of the unique advantages of the WATEX system is that it is a free floating installation. So this is ideal over top of an existing waterproof membrane. So our first step would be to always check for proper slope. So Jason's checking slope. We look good. So we've got downhill slope. This system is designed to receive 1 to 2.5% slope. So we always want to make sure that the water is going to be running off of our surface. Our next step would be to install our profiles. So I always recommend starting at the 90-degree corner if there is one on the job, and then squaring that up, and then continuing the straight profiles off of that. Now as I hold this up, you'll see that it's perforated. What this does is it allows water out of the system, and it allows air into the system. So this system is designed to minimize efflorescence because we're not retaining water in it, and therefore it's not evaporating through the system. It's draining out, all the water is evacuated out, and air allows the system to dry. Our next step is going to be to install our profile tape. Now this is a rubber butyl tape. It is very, very sticky. So this is handy to have a second set of hands when you're installing this. Now this has a fleece on one side, and they're going to line this up and then press it down onto the profile. What this does is it seals the profile to the substrate. Now on the corner, you'll notice that Jason is going to cut out a square right here because we don't want an overlap at our corner. So he's just going to remove a little square of that material, just like that. Now you'll notice that he's using Ardex shears. We are over top of a waterproof membrane if we're over occupied space. And we don't want to possibly use a utility knife and cut through our membrane. A little more forward. There you go. So once that profile tape is installed, we're going to press that down really well. And now we're ready to install our mat. Or sorry, we have our perimeter expansion foam comes next. He's already got one cut for you, Jason. So this perimeter expansion foam has an adhesive strip. They're simply going to peel that off, fold that tab down flat on the substrate, and stick it down. Now what this does is with any solid pieces like the house or maybe a column or something like that, this maintains proper expansion around any stationary objects. Jason, you want to press that corner down there real well? Nice, perfect. So now we're ready to install our mat. So again, this is a 100% floating installation. So there is no adhesive or mortar going underneath this mat. So we have channels that are cut through the mat this way, and what that does, we want to have those running downhill. Again, that helps to allow that water to evacuate the system. Now once he lays these 2 pieces in, the WATEX 150 mat comes in a 3-foot by 6-foot sheet. So these are going to be simply seamed together with our seam reinforcement tape. Again, this is a self-adhesive tape. We simply press it into place, and then we'll key thin set in on top of that. Now to protect our edges from filling up with mortar, we have a tape that will be applied to the perimeter, and this prevents mortar from seeping down and possibly plugging up these weep holes around the edge of our profile. There we go, perfect. So as you can see, this installation goes really, really quick and easy. Sorry, Tim, didn't mean to get in your way. There we go. So we just place this one right along that perimeter. And again, that keeps mortar from squeezing over that edge. Now from this point, we're ready to install tile. It's that quick and that easy to install our exterior system. For this installation, we have two different mortars that are recommended. We're using Ardex's X90 Outdoor. X90 Outdoor, just like it says, is designed for exterior installations. We can also use Ardex X32. So Jason's going to key that into the substrate. Again, keying mortar into his seam reinforcement tape there. Now, Jason has installed about 5 or 6 of these installations up in the Pacific Northwest. So I live in Portland, Oregon. Jason lives in Portland, and he's installed about 5 or 6 of these jobs. Jason's personal preference is to key both the substrate as well as back comb the tile. Now, the major thing with all exterior tile installations is getting proper coverage. We want to achieve a minimum of 95% coverage. So he's going to flat back trowel this tile and then comb it out. Now when he lays that down, he wants to make sure that he sets his comb going the same direction as the substrate, and then he's going to move his tile back and forth to completely collapse all those ridges. So you can see this completely flushes out with our system. This is a very low profile installation. So it's about 21 millimeters tall, which is one of the main obstacles that we run into with exterior installations. We never have quite enough elevation to do these kinds of installations. This mat is a very low profile with a 3/8 tile. We end up just below 7/8 of an inch. Once we're complete with our tile installation, we have 2 different options for addressing our joints. With tiles 16 inches and lower, on a straight lay installation, we can use one of the Ardex premium grouts such as FL or WA. If our tiles are larger than 16 inches, or if we have a pattern, say like a herringbone or an offset brick pattern, we need to use Ardex SX in all the joints. And what that does is when we get into larger tiles, it allows every single tile to be its own expansion joint. So as you can see, this installation goes very, very quickly. It's a very easy system, and it's very similar or familiar for tile setters to install this kind of a system. Now we do have 4 different systems at Ardex. This is our WATEC system. We also have a ProDrain system, which is on a A14 drainage mortar. Then we have our TerraMax system, which uses a cement pedestal meant for thicker tiles. And then we actually have our Tsl Plastic Pedestal. Now these are designed typically for 2cm and greater porcelains as well as natural stone. Some of the advantages of our TSL system is we have a screw jack system built in, and I don't know if you guys can see this from the crowd, but our head is auto rotating. So this head is able to move back and forth and accommodate for slope in the substrate. Jason, that looks pretty good. Alrighty. So now I'd like to invite Jason, since he has installed several of these projects throughout the Northwest, I'd like to invite him to share with us his experiences and why he chose to use the WATEC system on several of his projects.
Yeah, so a lot of it is height. On a couple of the projects, they had brought some other contractors in, and most of these contractors didn't have an answer. The doors were already installed, and we had an inch
and a half,
maybe. So William came to me with this, and it was perfect because it was about an inch total of buildup, at the doors, which is really what we needed. One thing that I would focus on is substrate prep. We didn't have a lot of opportunity to deal with that. So if you can get on these jobs ahead of time and really fix up that substrate, I mean, 1/8 of an inch over 10 feet, right? That's what you want to be when you're setting tiles. So for our interior stuff, we're able to control that a lot better. Some of these exterior projects can be difficult if you're coming in way at the end. So you definitely don't want to make up differences in substrate with thin set. With a mat like this, you want to be keying in, directionally trialing, 1/4 by half, doubling up, maybe 1/4 by half on the substrate, 1/4 by 1/4 on the tile, something like that. Really collapsing your ridges to get, you want really, really good solid coverage on these exterior applications. It's really important. So substrate prep and expansion, anything exterior, expansion, things are going to move. Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of freeze and thaw going on, and so as much as you maybe don't want to use a perimeter foam, you got to use it. You got to keep thin set from touching the substrate.
Yep.
You want everything to be able to move freely, and that's really the advantage of doing the silicone, the adhesive for your grouting instead of a cementitious grout. Good for efflorescence, it keeps the efflorescence away, and it just allows the project to move freely, which for exterior, really important.
Now, we have 2 different installations of this kind of system. We have over occupied space and over non-occupied space. If we're over non-occupied space, so say just a deck, we can use Ardex SK175 as our waterproofing and vapor management system. That's over wood or concrete substrate. If we're over an occupied space, we need to have a primary waterproofing done by, say, like a roofing contractor, done by others. That's typically not in our scope of work, and we don't want to own that responsibility. Our system is 100% free floating on top of it. So that makes it really advantageous for expansion and contraction, like Jason was mentioning. A couple weeks ago, we had 116-degree temperature in Portland, Oregon. And if you think back last winter, we were frozen and without power for 10 days. We get extreme swings. And exterior tile is one of the greatest opportunities for failure. I see the largest percent of failures in exterior tile because of expansion contraction. And it's not just the freeze thaw, it's when the sun comes out and heats that surface, and then the sun goes down at night, that surface contracts again. And it's always going to move different than its substrate below because it's a decorative finish and it's going to expand and contract. So these are all important things to take into consideration, and why this system is very advantageous for our climate that we have here. So our system design is designed to manage the water through it. So this is a capillary passive system. It does not allow that water to come up. It manages it through it and out that profile at the edge. So that concludes our installation. I will open it up if there's any questions about our system.
I could say one more thing too.
What you got, Jason?
In Global Tile Posse, we try to talk about knowing your place, kind of where you are in your career. I mean, 4 years ago, I shouldn't have been doing this. So now, obviously, I've developed the skills by talking to my reps and being a part of the NTCA, being a certified tile installer. These things, it got me to a place where I belong in this world, but I didn't belong in this world 4 years ago. So knowing where you are in your career or your company is really important. This is not for everybody. So if you're somebody that's learning how to set tile, get in touch with a rep before you just say, oh, I'm going to go out and start doing exterior tile installations. It doesn't work that way.
Get your rep involved.
Get your rep involved.
Make a phone call.
William was with me every step of the way, and I'm a good tile setter, but I still wanted somebody there that was representing the company that produced the product to make me feel comfortable with what I was doing. So, and one other thing, I said this before, I'm going to say it again, substrate prep. Try to get on these installs
early
before waterproofing so that you can fix the substrate. You do not want to make, changes on the substrate with thin set. Keep it thin.
Absolutely. All right, one last call for any questions. Well, thank you for joining us. Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. So the question is, sometimes the roofing contractor has come in and he's done a sand broadcast finish over top of a primary waterproofing. And so your question is, can we direct bond to that, or can we install this system over top of it? So two-part question there. So yes, we could install this system over it. Typically, we would want to get in touch with that roofing contractor and ask him to admit the sand broadcast, because we want our system to free float over top of it. And depending on the actual roofing membrane that's installed, we can always get in touch with your local rep. We can call our technical services, and if there's an opportunity to know what the roofing is, what the sand broadcast is, we can write a warranty specific to that job for your installation. So the short answer is yes, but we always want to get your rep involved so that we can run it through Ardex Technical. So his question is, if you're not bonded to the surface, what's keeping that entire assembly from sliding off the deck? Well, our profile here, which is called an Ardex DP21, is both screwed, and then it has a profile tape that is attaching it to the surface. So this is fastened to the substrate, and then the entire installation, this perimeter would receive an expansion joint all the way around the perimeter. So it is all locked together, so it can't just slide off or wind come up and pick it up and blow it off the deck.
It's heavy.
Really good question.
It's heavy.
And yes, it is heavy. Once you get the tile and the thin set there, it's a very stout installation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that will conclude our presentation. If you have any questions or are interested in seeing some of our other Ardex exterior systems, please swing over to the Ardex booth. It's right over here. It's 3719. Thank you.